Yo,
Hey, what's up?
not much. How's it going?
Good. Is this Colin?
It's Colin.
Hey, man.
What's going on?
Hey. That's great. So you can hear me fine, and I can hear you good.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Awesome.
And so, do you go by John or Jay or how do
Jay.
you?
Yeah, Jay.
Okay, right on.
Yeah. Yeah, you got
Yeah,
it right,
dude.
too. Most people say Jai.
Yeah, right on. I was thinking that too, but I thought Jay is like more.
Yeah.
I don't know, just more like an easy kind of go-to.
Yeah. Cool.
How is
You
it
want
old
to
St.
write?
John?
Good. A couple of the members, a couple of you folks are from the East Coast, aren't you? Or just one? Or
No, Angela. We lived in Halifax for a while,
oh, okay.
but we're both from Ontario originally.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we both went to university in Halifax. Lived there like 2012 to 2016-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I personally have family in the St. John area, like in Rothesay and Quispam.
Oh,
and on the
nice.
west side and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So did you go to Dalhousie or something in Halifax?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Cool school.
Yeah.
Nice place.
Yeah, it was fun. That's where like I started playing music, honestly. Like
Okay.
we had like, a university band.
Yeah.
And that's when we like did our first couple gigs and like kind of just got into the,
Yeah.
figuring out what the scene is like sort of thing,
Did you play the pavilion? In Yale?
No, never played the pavilion, but I
Where's
saw
the pavilion?
at the Commons, like
Yeah, the
outdoor spot. I saw the Cancer Bats play there one time.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no.
rad.
Yeah, it was sick. Great spot. Pretty
Really
legendary.
Man, when I was in like grade 9 or 10, so this is like, we're talking like 20 years ago. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And, me and my buddy were there in Halifax, just like at like a rock camp, right? Like kind of like a funny band camp thing. And we just
Sick.
walked
Oh, dude.
we just walked into the pavilion one night just for a show. Avenged Sevenfold were playing for $5.
No way.
It was awesome. Like I was like 15, so I was like, just blew my mind. They were not huge, obviously, at that point. They were just starting their careers, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
It changed my life.
That's
Really.
wild. Wow, what a cool like little glimpse to catch.
Yeah, just a total pure luck.
That's like
Are they from the East Coast?
No, they're from California.
They're from, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, why were they even there? That was kind of like, what's going on?
yeah, really.
Yeah.
Oh.
that Dan?
Yeah, no, it's Ella. I'll call her back. Yeah, what the fuck was I gonna say? What's the music scene like in St. John? I go there like fairly often, probably like once a year kind of thing, but I never really, no shows are ever really on my radar or anything like that.
Yeah, so it's pretty. It feels like it's bubbling up a little bit. Like, of course, the whole pandemic thing, but even, and I'm kind of like a recovering like New Brunswick cynic a little bit. So
Yeah.
but now like we just have a new venue that's going to open up this weekend. That's hopefully going to be able to do wet dry shows at some point. And they're going to be like a community focused kind of punk rock kind of vibe. And there's venues popping up all the time. Actually, it's kind of interesting, really.
Yeah, cool. Do people play at Callahan's ever?
I'm sure they still do. I haven't seen any shows advertised there lately, but yeah.
'Cause this is Dan.
Hey, Dan. Hey, I'm Jay. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Hey, nice to meet you. Sorry, I have to go walk in really quick before I sit down and do this.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Me and Dan and a couple of our other buddies did a road trip out to St. John from Toronto a couple summers ago.
Okay.
And we spent like a week there because I had a family reunion, and we like went out to Callahan's one night, and it was just so funny.
Yeah.
We just kind of went downtown and just did the St. John downtown experience.
Yeah. So when was this story? Was this last year?
That would have been summer 2021.
Okay.
So right, like we were gonna go to Nova Scotia too, but it was still closed because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just did New Brunswick.
Okay.
Yeah, it was super fun because he's from North Vancouver, and then I went with a buddy from Vancouver, and then a guy from California. They'd never been east of Alberta.
Yeah. Wow.
And so,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So we went and got the maritime experience a little bit there.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, there's quite a bit of positivity around St. John right now. Like there's some growth happening here, both just regular old population growth, but then there's also, what's interesting is there's quite a vibrant immigrant community building up here. So like in the little pockets of the city, from my experience, so I've been living here for like 7 or 8 years. From my experience, the little pockets of the that were just kind of like viewed as being like the poorer parts of the city are now, that's kind of where all the immigrants are moving into. So people from India and China and Japan, and they're bringing all that culture, and like they're opening restaurants and corner stores, which to like St. John and New Brunswick in general is kind of like a new vibe to have happening. And I think it's awesome. Like, it's great.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I remember when I used to go visit my aunt out there, we'd always go to Sense of Tokyo, and there's the one restaurant in St. John.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's great to hear that it's popping off more. I know that like so many people from Ontario are moving there and stuff like that, and probably like driving the prices of everything way up. Like how it's happening.
Yeah, that is a concern, especially with the housing and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of wish people would, like, our leaders would describe or explain like how gentrification goes down, you know, both the positives and the negatives, but they don't. No one really seems to like talk about how it happens, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And what it looks like when it does happen, because there's positives, but of course there's negatives, and you know, it kind of hurts at both ends.
Yeah, for sure. Like even looking at like Uptown and stuff, like when I used to go there as a kid, and now it's like super hip and stuff like that. Lots of pubs and like even my cousin runs. Do you know the Art Warehouse, that cafe?
That's my favorite cafe uptown. Yeah.
My cousin John owns that place.
No way.
Yeah, for sure. Him and his wife Ashley. Yeah.
Wow, what a small world. That's so awesome. That's funny. Yeah, seriously, sure. I'm not even kidding. That's my favorite That's my favorite place to go when I'm working on lyrics or whatever.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I go there. Yeah.
Yeah, because we started doing, I was there last fall, and we were talking, they wanted to start doing shows and like comedy nights and all these kind of things. Like they finally got a liquor license, so I think they're starting to try and do that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, they are doing, and open mics, like songwriting circles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. It's a great idea for a cafe, like kind of just come and just buy they got the canvas or the easels set up and stuff and all the stuff for sale, and
yeah, and it just automatically makes the vibe pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Nice.
So did you all move? Sorry, I missed that you mentioned you went out from Ontario to Victoria. Was it everyone in the band moved out there, or?
No, me and Colin went to university together.
Yeah. And
Dan's from.
Okay, you met Dan when you moved out to Victoria.
Yeah. So me and Gunnar moved. Gunnar's from Ottawa. I'm from Burlington.
Cool.
And so we moved to Halifax in 2012 for university, and like played in adjacent bands, and kind of met that way. And then I moved to Vic in 2016 after I graduated, and then Gunnar came out a couple years later.
Okay.
And then I met Dan when I moved here. I moved here with a girlfriend originally, and then we split up, and me and Dan both moved into the same house and didn't know each other.
Okay.
And then what were you doing before that?
Before that, I was at UVic before that.
Yeah.
But I guess I was living at UVic before that.
Yeah.
Why Victoria? Dan or Colin, whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot when you guys go.
I want to imagine that Colin convinced you, Dan, to come out since he was there first, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm more convinced Gunnar to come out.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was literally a tree planter, so I had like a lot of reasons to be out here.
Okay.
And I came after a coastal season in like October one year.
Yeah.
I'd never been here before, and I was kind of like, maybe I'll just move to Victoria. And then in a couple days of just being here, I was like, yeah, good place to move to.
Fell in love with it.
Basically just the really good weather.
Yeah. That's kind of BC in general, isn't it? Or is the island a little different than even...
Especially in Victoria.
Yeah.
Very top shelf stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, the island is...
Yeah.
Like, North Island can get pretty, like, cool and rainy and kind of, like... Stormy and just cold. But South Island is, like, it's as far south as you can go in the country.
Yeah, we have a little bit of wind here sometimes.
Extremely temperate. I have, like, a light jacket that I use the entire year round.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really great. Yeah.
Cool. Would Nanaimo be considered North Island or not? Is that like middle?
Really island.
I think Nanaimo is kind of the same.
Yeah, like kind of more maybe getting towards Mid Island, they would call it.
Yeah.
I'd say that would the cap of what you would call South Island.
Yeah. That's like
Nanaimo's the cap of what you would call the South Island. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Why not? Yeah.
Past there, it would be more Mid Island for sure.
Okay. Because I was reading, Colin, you mentioned like ex-cowboys kind of like assembling a dream team or something like that.
Yeah.
That makes me like so this is like a bunch of bands broke up and then you came together, or was it kind of like, hey, let's all come to let's form the band while our other bands are going?
Well,
I think it was like a post-COVID thing, so everything else had kind of stopped. prior to the formation, and then kind of over towards the end of COVID, we all got together and started jamming.
And
So like, oh yes, well, just on the Dream Team note, for me personally, I feel like Gunnar had been on my radar as like the best drummer in our circle in Halifax, and I was always wanting to be in a band with him. He was very dedicated to his band out there, and so I couldn't. And then me and Dan were in a band in Victoria before COVID called Hand. And Dan, I watched Dan learn the guitar and master it in like 2 years. And like, okay, this guy's like a savant. Like, I need to continue playing music with him. And then when Gunnar moved out here, I was like, oh shit, now Gunnar's here. Convinced him to play drums for us. And then Jordy, who's missing today, we used to play with his pre-COVID band called Circle of Care.
Okay.
And in Circle of Care, like they would come to Vic and play with us sometimes. And Jordy was like amazing. And so I was like, oh, I want to be in a band with him. So after COVID, his band broke up. Gunnar was here. Me and Dan wanted a new band. And so I kind of just like, it all just kind of came together.
Awesome.
Yeah. I was like a sports team scout. Have my roster.
Did the tunes come together pretty quickly? Like that 3-track, like you reached out to me over email at the radio station I'm working at?
Yeah.
And did those 3 songs kind of like come about pretty easily, or like I'm kind of curious how quickly it took off? Because it felt like as soon as I heard it, I was like, because I hear a lot of like submissions and stuff, and I was like, okay, something's going on here. Like there's a vibe.
That's nice. Thanks.
Yeah, I think Gated Community, I think we wrote the first time we ever jammed together, the 3 of us.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the first thing we ever played.
Colin turned on a chorus pedal.
And that was
and then we were like, ooh. Nice sound. Like, should this be a band? And we're like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So that was
just kind of your like cliche origin story, but is kind of how it went down.
Okay.
It's just funny.
So it was all because of the chorus pedal.
All because of the chorus pedal, yeah.
Yeah, and then we were 3-piece at that point because maybe we didn't really know if Jordy was down. And then after we wrote, or after a couple jams, we're like, yeah, we need like something else. It's like missing something, But yeah, Gated, we wrote that first jam, and then Dan wrote That's When I Saw the Cop and brought it to the band, and then we all workshopped it together.
Okay.
And Step Aside, I don't know. I think did we write that one collectively, or did I bring that one?
I think
you had the riff.
I had the riff.
Kind of built it.
Yeah. But that EP or that demo we recorded in the basement. We're at Jordy's house right now.
Okay.
He's not. We're just using it because it's close to our jam space.
Yeah. Nice.
And yeah, we recorded that in the basement here, which has been our jam space for a long time. Okay. And yeah.
Cool.
So that's kind of.
I was curious about, because it's the production. I'm kind of big into production, and like the sound of it. Like there's something. I was almost like kind of curious if it was recorded on a tape deck, and then that sound was like mixed into the overall vibe. Or I was kind of curious about how the production all came together, and if it was live off the floor, because it feels live off the floor.
Yeah, it was all live off the floor except for vocals. Recorded. It was all digital.
Okay.
With pretty much everything mic'd up individually, but no real isolation going on. So yeah, full mics on the drum kit and everything, and then vocals were overdubbed from my bedroom.
Did you mix it yourself? Do you guys mix it yourself, or?
Dan did everything. Dan did the fucking master.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Dan will do Dan's a legend because he'll do sound without shows sometimes just because no one else is good at it, and you're producing and you're got a good ear, so we just kind of let him / force him to.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I think it's awesome because you can kind of hear everything's I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of like claustrophobic, but like still big. It's like muddy but clear. I don't really know how to really say it.
Yeah, because we're working on this new album now, and we're almost getting too clean, and then recent mixes we were kind of can we make this sound a little worse?
Yeah. We need to make this sound worse.
Make it sound worse. Well, it's so I was listening to the 2 tracks I've heard anyway that are up on YouTube Music is what I use anyway.
Yeah.
And it has a similar sound, but it just sounds clearer, but it still sounds the same. It still feels like it fills the same amount of space, but it's just you can kind of hear, you can kind of make things out.
Yeah, and that's what we want.
Yeah, those mixes that we have up on streaming services right now are those aren't going to be the same mixes that are going to be on the album because we've been a little rushed.
Okay.
So yeah,
We've
we
been
actually
iterating.
Pretty close.
Yeah, we've been iterating.
Runaround's the newest one.
It's
right?
like I think yes. No, Runaround's not the newest one.
Oh.
We went to our producer is Evan, and he just lives in town here. He's a buddy. I went to his house the other day, and we are like working on the kick because the kick was so like thumpy and like scoopy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he mixed them up and he made it sound like a basketball bouncing, like like a basketball off the gym floor. It kind of has that high pitched ring.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that sound, and we're like,
That's it.
that's it. It sounds terrible, isolated, but in the mix, like, oh, it solves everything.
That's
So just
awesome.
little things like that, just figuring out like what is it in this mix that makes it too clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Strategic marketing is
Yeah.
what we're after.
I dig it. And I mean, your comment about the kick drum, no one hears the mix soloed anyway, right? So like it's all about how it sounds to get all as one cohesive package. So
Like a house of cards almost. Yeah.
yeah. You kind of want it where like you don't even notice anything's really like doing anything important unless you mute it, and then it feels wrong or something feels different. And you're like, okay, I don't know, we got to put that back or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's been a good process to work on the album. We recorded it in like January.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a fucking long process because
We just really just haven't been in a rush.
no, we haven't been rapping. But now we have like a release show scheduled, so it's
Now
kind
we're
of
rushing.
gotten us into gear.
Yeah.
Hard deadline.
Yeah, exactly. We needed that.
Yeah, they're important.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it live off the floor again? Was this process live off the floor? Or?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, we did. We
A
overdubbed.
lot of overdubs, but
A lot
like,
of overdubs.
all the tracking was live off the floor. Like, we're
Yeah,
using like basically all original bass and drum
The
takes.
bass and drums, yeah, were all live off the floor.
Yeah.
And all the guitars were being played live off the floor, but most of the tracks that have made it to the album, for guitars at least, were
have
overdubs.
since been replaced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind
And there's been some like obviously like effects and like wacky trap horns and shit added to the songs.
You can find them.
Yeah, I know,
Like
right?
an Easter egg.
Yeah.
And then- okay, so it's like there's a bunch of little Easter eggs for people listening critically to kind of pick out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. I personally want more trap horn, but we can that's a conversation for another time.
Just do trap horn remixes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Our producer sent us one. He's like, "Is this what you wanted, Colin?" It was literally just a long trap horn over the whole song.
No, I got him to trigger the snare to play it.
Oh,
I-
yeah, that's
Awesome. You could just build the trap horns, like pitch them or something in Melodyne, or like build them as pads on a synth, so then it can just be
Yeah,
the
exactly.
background through each song.
Yeah, I
So-
don't know. I just thought I think it's funny to just add silly little things in there for like serious punk songs, just to make it a little bit less like we're not taking ourselves too seriously here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think you don't want to get. I mean, it's important to have a message, I would think, right? But you don't want to take yourself too. You don't want it to be too serious where it's not fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And is the new album coming out on? Is it Easy Freaker Records? Is that who's putting the record out?
Yeah, so that's just our buddy Aaron, who's trying to start a record label.
Cool.
And yeah, so he's helping us out. He like helped us out, wrote a bio. Once we get our masters back on Sunday, he has a list of blogs that he's going to send them out to and stuff like that. And he's got a contact like Exclaim
Cool.
and just all these things. So he needs that to like pitch our stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's Easy Freaker, just our buddy Aaron. And
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
he was in his old band Circle of Care too.
Okay.
So he would come play with us and Vic, and he used to live with my sister, and that's actually how I met Jordy originally. But that's a whole other story.
Cool. Well, you should tell him to reach out to Grid City Magazine in Fredericton. A guy named Matt Carter runs that.
Yeah.
He's always doing write-ups on bands. I actually think he would legitimately dig your guys' tunes anyway. But
City Magazine?
Grid City Magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna message him right now.
Yeah, do it up.
Is he on
Yeah.
Instagram?
He's on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tell him Jay sent you guys his way if you want.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's consistently blogging and he's been at it for years, like decades, so.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna message him right after this. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So what's the scene like in Victoria in general? Like my old band, we played a few shows out there 2009 to 2012. So
Cool,
it's been a while, so I'm kind of curious. Like there's like black rabbits running around all over the place. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
they've since called all their rabbits.
Got shot.
Yeah, they all got sent
They're
to
done,
sent to the farm. Double Barrel Meadows.
Rest in peace, black rabbits.
Yeah. These days there's an abundance of amazing local bands right now.
many
Great scene, and a severe lack of venues.
No venues.
Yeah, the venue.
Serious venue crisis.
Yeah, unless you can pull 300 people on any given night, it's pretty tough to find somewhere to play.
Yeah.
So the venues are maybe like too big for what's for the scene, that kind of.
Expensive rental fees.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of organization to kind of put something together anywhere, and there's not a lot of places with like a low barrier
Yeah.
to entry is the issue.
Yeah. Like there was this one place called the Carlton Club that was open for a bit. That was like a very welcoming DIY space. But some sketchy shit went down and they had to close it. Like the people who were running it also ran wrestling there, and they officially said that a wall collapsed and they had to close, but a wall never collapsed, and the guy hadn't paid his rent in like 8 months or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
That was like any band could get a show there any night kind of thing, you know?
Okay.
It was still like expensive to rent, but it was super accessible.
Yeah.
So that closed down, and then there was a spot called Logan's that was around forever. They closed down during COVID and it's still closed. And those are kind of like, the low barrier to entry places that are now gone. There's one place called Little Fernwood that's really cheap to rent. Don't rent to anyone, but it's like booked solid.
Yeah, so there's two, Little Fernwood and then
Big
Oakland's
Fernwood.
Community Center. Big Fernwood. There's a couple community centers that you can book. There's a lot of DIY shows going on, so not really any promoters booking stuff, doing work. It's all bands. So
Okay.
people booking community centers, but there's even with that, they're all booked out until through next year.
Yeah.
Wow. And
And then there's the big like 300 plus venues that like either the room fee is $2,000 or they won't book you unless they think you can pull like 300 people. So it's pretty, and then even like there's this venue upstairs that was like mildly accessible, like my Tara would play there and stuff.
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
where we're
right?
doing isn't that where we're doing
Well, now it's shut down.
Wait, what?
They have water damage. They're closed forever. Yeah.
They're closed forever.
Yeah.
Wait, upstairs?
Yeah, and Darcy's.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
There you go. So it's like every week there's news about.
Wait, where are we playing?
We got rescheduled to the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. See, it's just like all the.
Yeah, that's like
We just learned of the demise of another local venue.
That's it. That's
Real
it.
time.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. So,
yeah. This sounds this sounds familiar. When my old band was pretty heavy into the scene, it was like, especially when trying to get an all ages gig. Like you mentioned a community center, so I wanted to follow up and ask if there's like, is all ages still like a consistent thing in Victoria, or is it always like a struggle for that?
These like DIY shows can be all ages for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time you don't even bother getting like a liquor license, or you're not even allowed, or whatever.
Yeah. You can usually get a liquor license like for these community centers and stuff, but then you're like, the capacity is only so much, and then it's like at that point, people are just gonna be drinking outside anyways. So it's like you're not gonna make your money back, and then it's restrictive because kids can't come. And honestly, I gotta give a shout out to Donovan and the crew, because there's this group of like high school kids who are just out at every single show, front row moshing. They're all like 16, 17, and it's just like so sick.
Yeah.
Like they love the scene. I gave them a shout out at our last show, and like he messaged me on Instagram after, just being like, "This scene means everything to me. Like I love music, I love this." And I'm like, man, like if I had a cool scene as a high school kid, I wouldn't have felt so alienated in suburban Ontario.
Yeah. I mean, it's really important to the people it touches. It means everything to them, really.
It's insane. So I love the fact that there's lots of all ages show, and it's like the scene here since COVID ended is so open, and there's no gatekeeping, there's no bullshit, there's no like pretentiousness, there's no like flexing or anything like that. It's just like everyone's happy to be playing music, everyone wants everyone to do well. Like there's no posturing, there's no competitiveness, it's just very wholesome and inclusive and awesome.
Cool.
And then sometimes like big city bands will come through and kind of be like on their big city kind of like scene kind of, you know what I mean? And they'll come and they like will kind of like cool guy people like not say hi when you're setting up and shit. It's like, buddy, like come on, And it just makes me love the scene here so much because it's just not like that.
Yeah. There's not as much ego running rampant, maybe, or
Oh, very little.
Yeah.
I would say people who do have an ego kind of like don't really do well because it's just an alienating thing to put out there,
Yeah.
People with play what 2 shows a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Make money off of it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh yeah, we don't want to play the same venue twice. It's like, well, there's 4 venues. So.
Yeah, you don't want to saturate the market.
Yeah, that's us. It's the kind of thing where sort of, you never have bands arguing over who's going to get to headline the show. You have everyone wanting to go first or second.
Yeah.
You guys take the last.
Yeah. It's because it's like an all ages show. It's like everyone wants to go to bed. It's just, can't play after 11 anyways. So yeah, they call the Victoria headliner the 3rd band on a 4-band bill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That would happen around here sometimes. The touring band, whether they were big or small, sometimes they would purposely want to be second last, just because they're on the road. They need to. The more people they can play in front of, the better chance they are at covering their gas, basically. So,
exactly.
But yeah, it was. I always thought that was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys get many touring bands out in Victoria? I'd imagine it's pretty handy to the States.
Not really.
Stuff, right? No. Maybe the ferry turns people away.
Yeah, I think it's on an island, and the ferries, along with being expensive, they're a complete shit show right now.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever's running that organization,
really shit in the bed.
Fucking the dog a little bit.
Wow, shade on BC.
This is a common knowledge. They're understaffed, and ferries keep getting canceled left and right.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just like airline travel, it's just in disarray.
So
understaffed, overbooked.
Not a lot of touring bands coming over here right now.
Plus, it's like, dude, if you're bringing your van and 5 band members, that's gonna be $150 each way.
Yeah,
it's super prohibitive,
Yeah,
I seem to remember us the driver would be in the van. We had 2 bands in our 15-passenger van, and everyone hid themselves under blankets and gear.
That's the move.
It was it's just one person.
Yeah, for real. Because they don't get paid enough to go search through your van.
They didn't question it for a second. And we had a trailer too. It's obviously the van's full of people.
Oh god, yeah. So we got a couple. So our album release show, we're playing with Super Crush. They're from Seattle.
Okay.
They're from Vancouver, I think, but they're in Seattle now, and they're a pretty big band. Everyone's really excited about them coming to Vic because they've never been here before.
Cool.
So they're gonna play with us there, and then Hotline TNT is coming through as well, because there used to be Weed in Vancouver. That was their band, and now they're in New York as Hotline TNT, and they're coming to play with Pooched, actually. Shout out to Pooched, the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Cool.
But that's going to be a sick show. So I feel like those guys. Built to Spill came through in the winter. That was sick.
This is all touring bands that are playing the bigger venues.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You got even before COVID, it was kind of more common to have smaller touring acts, but nowadays if you're playing at a community center to 60 people and you're paying $300 of ferry to get back and forth here, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. We had this band, the Stone Phones, come through in June, and they were on a Canada tour, and that's the only non-big band that has come through on touring. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like any bands like us are coming through at all.
Well, that is a big bill, and then you add gas and just food and all the other life necessities. It is a gamble. Yeah,
for sure.
But whenever we do have an out-of-town band come through, especially even from Vancouver, I always try to pay them out proper before the local bands. They got expenses, and they gotta feed themselves and get back to town.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm always very cognizant of make sure you cover your ferry first, at least, and we'll pay the rest of the bands out, including us.
So shout out to any bands thinking of coming to Victoria.
Yeah, we'll pay. Get on a bill with us, and we'll make sure your ferry bills are covered.
Yeah, well, that's nice. And if you guys ever come out east too, man, there's lots of people that would show you the love too. I know it'd be a long journey to get out here, but
honestly, I would love that. That'd be so sick. We talk about it next summer, maybe doing a tour, because I've met lots of people. Honestly, I think you're the sickest person I've met online, my favorite online band friend.
Me?
Yeah. I don't know. You're really nice to us right up front.
Well, that's just because I felt something in the music. I wouldn't be. Yeah, it just seemed like something's there, and it seems to be with the 2 songs I've heard too. So, not to put too much pressure on you guys.
No, not at all.
Don't let me down.
I appreciate the love.
Yeah.
But anyways, I've met some other people, and all across Canada. So hopefully by next summer, I'll be able to hit you up and hit them up, maybe get something going. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got quite a few venues out in St. John now, and I know there's I could give you recommendations offline about who to talk to or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that'd be great.
So like I know, I guess we got this Zoom. This is actually the first Zoom interview I've done with
really?
for the show. Yeah, so I just noticed a countdown timer. They want me to pay.
Oh, true. Well, I could send you. I mean, if we want to keep chatting, I could always just make my own link and send you the recording or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just wait and see what happens, and then if we want to do that, yeah.
Cool.
Because I know, like obviously your lyrics and the topics you're touching on are obviously important. So I was kind of curious, like what motivated that sort of like it's not in your face, but I can tell you're talking about like. Feels like oppressive topics and that sort of thing. I mean, gated community, I guess that's could be a little obvious, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think the one that because I've wrote the lyrics for those 3 songs, and I think that's when I saw The Cop sticks with me the most, because that one's about, there's this video that went out on CBC a while ago of, there's this town, High Prairie in North Alberta.
Okay.
Or no, High Level, sorry. And High Level was having a lot of flooding, and it was flooded the local Indigenous community. And the RCMP evacuated them all into hotels in town. And this video got posted on CBC of 3 RCMP, 2 of them pinning down an Indigenous guy, and the 3rd one just kneeing him in the face. And I think he killed him.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
He just got off, whatever.
Yeah.
And so literally the lyrics because it was at a motel, right? So the lyrics, I was at a High Level motel poolside when I saw the grizzly highlight. When the knee went to his forehead, it was all so morbid, but I couldn't look. Yeah. So that's literally just about that video. And Dan brought that song, just the music, and I was like, I remember I couldn't figure out kind of how to sing to it or whatever for a bit, and then I went home and kind of chewed on it for a bit, and then thought about that, what's made me upset lately that I can put to this, and that's kind of what came up. So that's what that's about.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty heavy. That's obviously a bullshit situation, so
yeah, I know, right? It's just up. It was totally up. Anyways, that's what that song's about. And then gated community is pretty on the nose, I guess. And then Step Aside is just about dealing with just toxic masculinity in 2 separate. One with my dad, who we've done a lot of work together, and it's all good now. And then this other one, the other verse is about this guy we went to Dal with, who was just terrifying, and actually got kicked out for beating the shit out of an exchange student.
Damn. Holy man.
Oh, I know. So there you go. Since you asked.
So are those themes going to continue on in the new record? I think it's important to have I think it's important to have a message. Sometimes I get angry just think in New Brunswick. We're pretty much controlled by one oligopoly family, the Irvings. They kind of run everything.
Yeah,
Irving,
yeah.
Mr. That son of a gun. Well, I don't know if I can talk shit about Mr. Irving on this, or your radio show might get.
You just won't hear from me again. I'll just drop off the face of the planet. They'll send me to some island and hunt me, like that movie, The Pest.
Jesus. Yeah. Oh man,
dangerous game.
But it's easy to get angry about it though. So it's nice that you put it into song. So there's still fun aspect to it, but it's still an important message, because I feel like people get angry and frustrated so easily today. I mean, obviously, just with all the information coming at our eyeballs.
Yeah.
So it's nice to put that message out there, but still have a fun vibe to it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of why I like talking earlier, on the new version of we re-recorded Gated Community, and that's when I saw The Cop on the new record.
Oh, cool. And
sweet. Gated Community is the one that has the trap horns in it, and it's just you know what I mean. It's it's a heavy topic, but I just needed to, you just got to goof around a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what fun is it really? But yeah, for me, I'd say those 2 singles are both about a weird situationship that I had last fall.
Okay.
And that kind of fucked me up. And then there's Gated and Cop, and then there's one song on there, Mosquitoes, that I wrote in Whitehorse in 2014 that's just kind of been in the repertoire for a while that we finally wanted to record.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the rest, Dan has a song on there that he sings, and It's about parked cars on the street or something.
Well, sort of. It's a little bit more of a kind of like a spoken word thing. So it was that song I'd written the music, like the instrumental for. We had been jamming it for a while. We played it at a few shows without any lyrics to it, and we had recorded it before we had any lyrics to put to it, and we were all just kind of at a loss for like a melody and singing over it. Just like nothing really seemed to quite fit.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up finding some poetry that I'd written like several years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just dug up an old notebook out of my closet. Just kind of found a piece that I thought suited the vibe a little bit. So that's what's going on over that track.
Cool. That sounds interesting. Do you journal a lot? Is that kind of part of your routine?
No, actually, I don't at all. So it was a short stint, several years ago. I just kind of pulled from that.
Cool. A little hidden treasure you didn't know was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's going to be out in August. The album's coming out this month. Is that the plan?
August 26th.
August 26th.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we got one more mixing session on Sunday to finalize everything, and then Evan is going to go and just master everything next week, and then fingers crossed we'll have the final masters on the 11th, and then we can send them out, and yeah, hopefully people like it. And
do you sit in on the mixing, or do they just send you what they've done, or whoever's mixing it?
We've been sitting in a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Evan's been super nice to work with. Super accommodating and patient with us.
So patient.
We got with especially myself. After producing our demo before, being super involved with doing sound gigs and stuff. And other projects that a pretty specific idea of what we wanted it to sound like.
For sure.
Whereas Evan's got the skills to achieve that. So it's been really nice kind of working collaboratively, hearing what he comes up with and providing some input and like, hey, it sounds great, but we wanted this part a little bit more up front, or this is kind of more the sound we're going for, and he kind of makes that a reality.
Cool.
It's been super nice working with him. Big shout out to Evan.
Yeah.
Did you have to fight demoitis from the re-recording those songs? Like, was it difficult to walk away from the demo tracks, because they sound really cool?
I feel like I was originally / might still be on team let's just not re-record those demo tracks because they're so good. But I think that we did them, like, listening now to the demo tracks, like, okay, to the new tracks, they're like, okay, they sound just like the demo tracks, but like we've now played them at like a million shows and they're like more dialed.
Polished,
yeah, exactly. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean the new tracks I've heard, like, it does feel like a natural evolution sonically. Like it feels very like just a step forward.
For sure.
Like, it doesn't feel like anything was lost. It was just, everything's just a little, I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess with you tighter maybe, I guess, because the gigging.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we're kind of feeling out really what we want out of our sound,
Cool.
Yeah. Here, do you guys want to keep chatting? What do you think, Jay? How you feeling?
Yeah, I got another. I'm good till 6, like 20 more minutes, I guess. So if you want
cool.
to, sure.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's end this, and then you try and send me another link if you can.
Okay.
And then if not, then I'll just keep my eye on Instagram and I'll send you one.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to you in a sec.
Yeah.
Case.
Yo.
Hey, we're back.
We're back.
Take that, capitalists.
Yeah, nice try.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to, so on the Easy Freaker records, unless you had something to say, I wanted to read something to you.
Oh yeah, sure.
So they describe you guys as the 4-piece ensemble brings you an unfiltered protest to oversaturated politics, a mutiny against exploitation, a refusal to comply with contemporary norms, chewing them up and spitting them out in your snot-nosed face.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of interested about, like, oversaturated politics. Is that just kind of like, is that like meaning just how it's like an inundated nonstop news cycle, just like go, go, go?
Wow.
Recording in progress.
Oh, got it. I would have to, Aaron kind of wrote that for us, and we just were like, yeah, sounds good. If I had to interpret it, I think it would just kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like the heavy themes of the demo song, sort of, like like gated community is about like a family member of mine who lives in a gated community in Florida.
Okay.
That's
Interesting.
not like and I don't want to shade my cousin, like I love her and like she's great, but just like the vibe of Florida with its like you're either like super rich living in a really nice gated community or you're like super poor living in like a shack.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like everyone hates each other and everyone's pissed off.
Interesting.
So that was like, I guess Aaron kind of picked that up from the lyrics or something. And then like this whole cop thing, like, you know, just the whole like relationship of police and indigenous people, especially in Western Canada, and just like how a cop can just do that and just like face zero repercussions, and other stuff like what's happening in like Wet Sweat and Land right now, like just cops literally doing super violent shit, getting away with it, and people stoked on it.
Okay.
It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting. So have you hung out in a gated? I've never been to a gated community. So like, have you hung out?
I've hung out there a couple times. Like it's nice. It's just like a suburb, except you need like
very sterile.
Yeah, very sterile. It's like homeowners association on crack. You know, like every house needs to look the same. You can't park in your driveway. You have to park in your garage.
Oh wow.
You have all these super heavy rules. You know. And just like no one really, there's no like, even though it's like a community, there's no sense of community because no one really like, especially in Florida, everyone's very like on edge, sort of like there's a lot of like paranoia, a lot of guns. Gun culture is really big and just kind of like protecting your property kind of thing. Like there's this sign near that place, the end of a driveway. It's just a wood sign with a barrel of a gun pointing at you, and it says, "We don't call the police." You know,
that's so wild, man.
Bizarre.
Do you think the gated community? So the rules, like, you know, no parking on your driveway. Do you think it's like mix of safety measure, but also like people worried about their investment in their house, like protecting the?
I think it's a combination, personally, of like control through aesthetic. You know. Because if you're the one making the decisions in this place, you have power, but only in the context of your gated community. So it's like, however you can swing that power around, you're gonna, you know? So it's like, a big thing is through aesthetic. Like, you can only paint your house this color. Yeah. You can only paint, so you can only put your vehicle here. You can only, like, use this space. It's like, you know what I mean? It's control, and the only way to exert that control is through aesthetic and, like, how people can use the space, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And of course, there's always someone at the top of that chain who gets to make the ultimate call, I would imagine. So.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the control through aesthetic. That's a fascinating point, really, because I used to work actually at an Irving I like was heavy into music, and then I just kind of like had a personal situation and just totally gave up on music and went back to school. Ended up working in a pulp mill, doing industrial work for Irving. Yeah. And like they control through aesthetic in a massive way, where even like all their engineers and the people in the office rooms are wearing uniforms with their names, and everyone's walking around with smiles, you know. And it's really kind of like, these are like professionally engineers. It just seems so weird to me. It's one thing for like the labor folks to just be wearing uniforms, but like professionals in their offices, you know, with just looking all the same, you know. It felt and that's exactly how it felt, controlled by aesthetics. Like that's a good way to
yeah, that's wild.
Rob you of your individuality.
Yeah, and even though but you have your name, so you still feel like yourself. But everyone's like, it just like changes the vibe across the whole place.
That is so weird to make like engineers and shit wear uniform. It just seems so like
insulting to me a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with uniform jobs or anything, but it's just that, and I would think you want like engineer and science folks to be like individually minded a little bit, right? You don't want that automaton thing to take hold.
Well, maybe you don't if you're Irving. You want them all kind of like not questioning if you're dumping shit in the fucking cannabis releases or whatever, right? Yeah.
They try to get all their like they own a bunch of newspapers, and they tried to get them to wear uniforms too. Imagine reporters out on the street wearing uniforms. Yeah, and like Blaine Higgs too. Wasn't he like a lawyer for a long time or something like that? He was an executive in their oil business. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got him. They got the whole. You know, they got him in there, and they can just do whatever the hell they want. But nothing new there, I guess.
Nope. We call that the New Brunswick conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Damn.
Oh well, it's good to see. It's good to see. I mean, with all the information coming out, like that's the flip side of having like being inundated with social media and information, is that if you can manage to stay sane and just kind of like collect the relevant information, you can do a lot with it, really.
Yeah, you bet, for sure. And I've always found it interesting, like, just, I feel like the whole media lens and shit with all the information coming at you can be so like all over the place, or like even like really American centric or whatever. But it's like, I always find it most interesting to know what's going on in Canada, because there's all these like not a lot of people know about the relationship of Irving and the province of New Brunswick, right? Mm-hmm. Like out west, like nobody knows about that. I only know about that because I got family out there. Mm-hmm. But I find that stuff so interesting. You know what I mean? Just those little kind of local issues that are a big deal to the major city in the province, and
they must pop up there as well too, right? There must be a couple people that are or some groups that are putting their thumb on the scale too, a little in an unfair kind of fashion. Well,
you got Jimmy Pattison, who owns Save-On and all the car dealerships. He's like the richest billionaire in Canada. He's like 99 years old and he still works every day or something like that. Yeah, it's great. He works, yeah.
Sigma male.
Yes, he's on his Sigma grind set. Oh god. But yeah.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
So actually there's another quote I read about finding a balance between competition and community building.
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? Could you go into that a little bit further, like competition versus community building? Is that like competition between the bands, or competition like a capitalistic competition between venues and like the music scene in general? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or is it because versus the community, like money is such an important factor in terms of motivating people to do stuff, and you can only lose money for the sake of community for so long. Like it's such I find that balance so interesting. Do you have any thoughts on it? Anyone?
I've been talking a lot to these guys.
Wait, where did that come from? That quote that you were
it was talking about when that venue closed, the Carlton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was he was talking about how there wasn't really that many venues to play, but there was like this mismatch between building, or there's not mismatch, but there was like this friction between community building and competition.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. What did you mean by that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it was more like, right now, I'd say there is very little competition because we can't afford to be competitive. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, there's not a lot of spaces to play at, and so everyone just kind of has to like, you can't be the only band booking all the time because people aren't going to come out and see you if it's just the same. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a problem that there is in Vic. There's only so many bands that are playing shows, and there's a lot of people in a lot of different bands. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like there's people across different bands, and so it's like there's a big criticism, and All Cards on the Tail of Victoria is like very white. Like there's not a lot of like racialized folks here in general and in the music scene. And so I think the racialized folks who are in the scene are becoming more critical, like, hey, it's just the same 4 white guys putting on shows every single weekend. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's a difficult issue because it's like, how do we make the scene more accessible when the population is already just very white? And it's a conversation that's ongoing. Mm-hmm. So I think that a big thing is like the community is still feeling itself out and deciding what it wants to be after COVID.
Okay.
Like the mad dash of everyone trying to play as many shows as possible is starting to settle a little bit because like, okay, we're in a post-COVID world now. This isn't going away. Fingers crossed anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Now we're kind of, it's like the honeymoon period is kind of coming to an end a little bit, and everyone's kind of like thinking like, well, what do we want this to be given all these parameters,
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I've been talking about the competition.
I'm gonna get some water.
I mean, I do wrestle a lot, like with all the venues closing, and like it's just when you're doing something that's like very artistic, obviously, like trying to like nurture a music scene and stuff, but then you balance that against every time you organize a show, it's like an extremely capitalistic endeavor.
Yeah.
It's like at the approachable places you're paying like $250, $300 rental fee. And then like, if you really want to like have a successful night, you probably want to go get a liquor license, buy a shit ton of liquor, rent all sorts of gear, because no venues here have any gear for you essentially, maybe besides like a PA. And all in all, you're in for like almost $1,000 maybe on a night. And then it becomes the sort of thing where you're like, you're your own promoter then, and you're really kind of like, it's a harsh word, but like you're just kind of like, then you're like manipulating people to come, like you're like advertising for yourself.
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of like business transaction, and like, and that's maybe what Colin was referring to with the competition, is then you end up like really analyzing like who you're including on bills, because you almost want to appeal to different quadrants of like music fans around the city to make it go. And so that's just something I personally grapple with a lot. It's like, I want to just be doing music for music's sake, but you can't really do that in Victoria at most venues, because you're instantly down like $600 and it becomes this like kind of stressful ordeal. So there's almost like, you're either playing at these huge venues where they kind of like accommodate you better, ironically, because they're just like, you sort of strike a deal where it's like, you don't have to pay much up front, as long as like we're trusting you to bring in a lot of people. Then otherwise you're paying all this money yourself to like run a show at a community center. And then it's easy to like look around and be like, what are we even like doing this for? You know?
Yeah, it's a delicate dance. And then like, if you get too many negative experiences, or this is my experience anyway, if you get too many negatives in a row, like as much as you want to ignore the money and just keep doing it for the art or whatever and the experience, there's just always that moment where it's just so crushing. I don't really know, like, and it's you see it happen all the time, and you almost wish there was an easy answer, but there obviously isn't.
I used to live in Halifax and play shows a lot, and like it seemed like the normal model there, like given this is like almost 10 years ago, was like bars just sort of releasing their availability for a couple months, and you didn't pay anything. You were just like, can I have that Tuesday 3 weeks from now? And they're like, sure. Then you just keep the door money, and maybe they toss you like a pitcher or two. Yeah. And the incentive for them is just people come into the bar. And I thought that was totally normal. And then I came here, and literally nowhere operates under that model. Everywhere has like a huge rental fee. And it kind of blows my mind. I haven't been back to Halifax in a while, so I don't know if they're still doing that sort of thing, but that was just the culture there. And I think that's way more conducive to like a local art scene where anyone can get up and play.
I think a factor in that does come back to, almost the greater scene of the politics in Victoria right now, where housing and just real estate in general has gotten so expensive that businesses downtown are shutting up shop left and right because they can't afford the rent on their building. So it's forcing anyone who's has a commercial lease to try to bring in as much money as they possibly can to pay the bills and keep their doors open. And letting musicians come and play in your business for free, although it's awesome and it's what we want, it isn't necessarily what's going to bring in the most money for these businesses.
And again, it's like not even about bringing in the money like to pay themselves, but it's bringing in the money to pay their rent. So it's like what Gunnar was saying. It's like this kind of vicious cycle where, in order to create a non-profit incentivized space, you need to incentivize the profit to pay for said space. And so there's actually, like, to give the city credit, we have a city councillor right now, I think it's Ben Issett, who used to play in a lot of local bands. And he's, there's a Victoria music strategy that's just started this year. And they're giving a lot of grant money to a lot of artists. Like our friend Teresa is organizing this annual event called Good Party. And I think she got a fat grant from the city, to pay for the venues and pay for all the stuff. And like our friends band Hillsborough, they got a sweet grant like to do a tour down to the States and stuff like that.
Nice.
And also the city is endeavoring to open up like city-owned venues. Like they're going to buy up buildings and like run them as art centers. And they're also fast tracking liquor licenses and like permits to spaces that could theoretically host venues. Like there's a Victoria Curling Club, which has all of this empty space, and they have a bar that they never use, and so they're going to start running shows there. So the city's kind of starting to get creative with it. I think now that there's some like fresh counselors in there who are familiar with the music scene and want to help, they are actually helping, which is really nice.
Cool.
So it's getting better slowly, maybe, but like it's far from perfect.
Yeah.
Is grant culture like provincially? Are there grants for bands and artists in British Columbia in general? Is it part of the?
There was just a
fabric?
recent like blitz. Well, I don't know. If that's
Yeah, well, these ones
they
are
very recently set up this specific grant. So
This is a municipal grant too. It's not from the province.
Okay.
It's city. Victoria.
Yeah, that's right. So it's much more the city.
Yeah, very
I'm sure
local.
there are provincial grants, arts grants, but yeah, the ones that are more on everyone's radar in town are the city ones, because they're actually quite substantial.
Cool.
Like, nothing to be sneezed at. Like, I think, well, I don't know how much Hillsborough's get, but they're getting enough to pay for a 14-stop tour all the way down to San Diego.
Nice.
So
That's huge because that means any merch sales in theory is like profit, right?
yeah, and also the visa prices to go play in the States now.
Yeah.
Hear about this? It went from like $500 to like 4,000 or something like that to go get a touring permit.
Wow.
Yeah, so they just essentially made it impossible for anyone who doesn't have a grant or a bunch of money behind them to do that. And then for American bands to come to Canada, they literally need nothing, like nothing at all.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
That's painful.
Mm-hmm.
Just an imaginary expense, but I mean, I don't know. I've never done the visa thing into the U.S., so that's just another huge upfront cost that can basically make it a non-starter.
Exactly, right? And it's like it's not like there aren't good places to go tour in Canada. Like, where we're at, we got like there's good scene in Victoria, Vancouver, like Chilliwack. I know there's a bunch of sick bands out there, and then like the Okanagan, like Kelowna, and then out to like Revelstoke and Nelson and stuff, and then Alberta, like Edmonton and Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, like Regina's got a cool scene. But the thing is too, like if you're driving from Kamloops to Calgary for a show, that's like a day of just driving.
Yeah.
Versus if you want to go down to the States, you could hit like 15 cities and never drive more than 2 hours,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, huge difference. I remember when our first tour out west, it was like you play Ottawa, then you play like 5 more shows, and you're in British Columbia. And you're like, how the hell did we get here so quick?
yeah, for real. And so the tour just turns into just driving.
Yeah.
Which, it is what it is, but
Yeah, it's just how the country's set up.
I had a couple of guys, band stay at my house last weekend who were on tour I think they were from Ottawa or Toronto, they had played a show with my other band, and they were telling me they had driven for like 32 hours between shows.
oh my gosh.
At one point on their journey.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably Northern Ontario.
Probably, yeah. You can be in Ontario for 2 days.
Oh yeah. Do you host a lot of bands at your house, Dan? When bands are around?
Anyone if they need it.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not advertising my house online for come stay at my house if you're in a band. If I'm playing a bill with the Northtown band. They mentioned they don't plan for anywhere to stay. Come crash on my living room floor.
Yeah.
Doors open.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super helpful. I actually got a message from a band that crashed at my place when I booked shows when I was like 18. They still remember like how helpful it was that they were able to crash. It was my parents' house, but anyway, it's funny how much of a difference it made. It didn't, I didn't know any better at the time because I was just learning, but it's funny that memory will stick with people forever. So.
Yeah, for sure. Once you help them out once, they got their hooks in you.
Yeah. Well, but they came back one other time, but it was like they just appreciated it looking back because now they're probably like in their early 40s, so they're going down that old nostalgia road trip for sure. But it was something that stuck with them their whole life. So
Yeah, that's great.
it's good to give people those memories. So I'm sure you did that, Dan, to the bands you help out like that. They'll remember it, 10, 20 years, whatever happens.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the community building. That's
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a beauty part of like the Canadian kind of scene. Like, even though it's such a huge like country area wise, like there's not a ton of people in the scenes in each city. And so I feel like if you make one contact in each city, you're kind of set, you know what I mean? Like, like I feel like quite a few people in New Brunswick, and then like, you meet other people who are in music scenes in their own town. Like there's a guy in Victoria whose Instagram is Gigtoria.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Kai, and he's in Pooched. And he is just like it's kind of like the guy, you know, like he's been in the scene forever. Like he books a lot of shows, brings a lot of touring bands in.
It's also toured all over the place.
Yeah, toured all over the place.
Cool.
So I feel like every city's kind of got their guy like that, or their person like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like if you get to know them, then you can work it out if you want to do something in that city.
Yeah, kind of like a guru mentorship kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, Gunnar, when you were in Ottawa, were you playing in other bands? Is that where your music?
I left Ottawa when I was like 17.
Okay.
University. Actually, I did. My band Narwhals did technically form in like grade 12.
Okay.
And then we all went to university together, and then recruited someone else to play bass. And then we actually became like worthwhile and good there.
Yeah.
But I don't think the high school version of us was.
I don't know, man. That first EP is pretty banging.
Yeah, that's from like first year though.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of grew together as a band. We played a lot in Halifax because we basically got the keys to like one of the bars on campus there, the Grad House. I don't know if you spend much time in Halifax.
It's been a few years, but I used to go there quite often. Yeah, but I'm not familiar with the Grad House.
Yeah, it was just like the smaller one on campus, and we like got our own PA and really got in the habit of like setting up shop there. And so they would like sort of plan around us, and sometimes we play there like twice a month, I think, and just kind of have a big party.
Yeah, that was
super. Really fun era of time.
We literally
a lot of Collins bands would be on those bills.
Yeah. And we would just like our friends. It was like a student union run bar.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Bartenders, and they would just like it was just like free beer. It was such
pretty scandalous.
It was quite scandalous, but it was so fun.
Did you know it was scandalous at the time, or is it only looking back? You're like, man, what a special situation.
We kind of just like kind of ran the joint, you know.
Yeah, for sure. It would just be like, you know, if there was like maybe 80 people there, they'd just literally be like everybody in our extended friend group would all just come and hang out, and everyone would know everyone, and it would just be really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's a cool band from Halifax called Like a Motorcycle. Have you heard of them?
Oh yeah. No, I haven't heard of them.
Definitely heard them.
You've heard them? Yeah. I feel like they flew out to Vancouver, or it couldn't be Victoria. Well, maybe. I know they recorded either their newest album or the one before it out in BC.
Nice.
But they've been across the country. Yeah, they're super cool. Pretty punk rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe another band if you come out here next summer. I would
get them on a bill.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely Halifax if they can time. They might be one of those bands who don't play their hometown too much, but if you time it just right, kind of deal.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
we're playing with a band kind of like that for our album release, Dead Soft. They're like they've been in their first album was 2014, I think, and they were from Victoria, and I think they got quite a bit of they got quite well known on the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved to one of the Gulf Islands. I don't know which one, but like they're like little tiny islands between Vancouver Island and the mainland that are very like hippie.
Okay.
So now they live on a Gulf Island, and I don't think they play very much anymore, but they're doing a tour. And we just actually, when we were booking our album release, we were going to do it earlier in the month, and we asked them to play, but they were busy. And then our date fell through, and then they messaged me on there, and they're like, "Hey, we got this other show booked later in the month. If you want to hop on the bill and make it your album release." We're like, "Oh,
sweet!"
Kind of like for our lap. So we reached out to them and missed them, but then they remembered and they hollered back, which is really nice. So,
that's cool. So that'll make for a good show.
It'll be a good show, I think. Yeah, it's gonna.
Are you going to be doing any more splits like with the friendship split?
Oh yeah,
that was pretty cool. That kind of caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was fun. I don't know. I'm not anti-split at this point.
I'm pro-split. One issue we just encountered was that it's kind of like impossible to find that track on Spotify.
Yeah,
it's not on our page.
Mm-hmm.
So like scrolling through our music, it just literally isn't there.
Yeah,
so that's something we need to figure out how to not. It's just not make it like that in the future.
Yeah, it's just that like DistroKid, which is the service we use to put our stuff on streaming sites, doesn't allow for proper splits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and credit certain tracks as like you can add a collaborator, but it won't show up on their profile.
Oh, interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, either you can credit the whole album as credited to both artists, so like our songs would show up on their profile and vice versa. Or you can add a collaborator, but it won't show up on your pro. So it's weird. So maybe we should find a new streaming service or a distribution service or something like
Interesting. Yeah, because it kind of looks like it's like ex-cowboy featured on all the tracks.
Yeah, which is not
It's
how it
just
is.
a quirk of
The quirk.
Yeah,
But is it two separate bands on the recordings, or
separate bands. Yeah.
yeah.
So
it's amazing how
on
well
the-
it flows?
on the artwork, there's credits for which band did which song.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because the last two tracks are you guys, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't. It sounds like. So when I heard it, because it was so cohesive, it sounded like I just imagined it was like a super group that did all 4 tracks.
Yeah, right.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Honestly,
That's how it looks.
That's how it sounds too.
Yeah.
Like the sound, it seems to gel. The music seems to gel pretty well.
For sure. Well, we did all record it on the same day in the same studio, like all
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
So,
Jordy forgot my snare drum, so I had to use the other band's snare drum.
Ah, okay. So that probably has something to do with. Yeah, I guess so. That's kind of like a happy accident.
Yeah.
that was a funny one because we had Caught Dead, that track that we did. We played that as hand, and I wrote that one in like 2014 probably. I wrote that one in 2018 and never did anything with it. We played it as hand a little bit, and then we played it as ex-cowboy, and we're like, it doesn't necessarily fit on the new album, but it's a good track that we need to like get down in some capacity. So we recorded it, and then we didn't really have a second track for the split. And that morning, I remembered this like super random Neil Young song called "Dirty Old Man" that was from like the year 2000 Juno soundtrack that Neil put together, or maybe it was off the album Chrome Dreams 2 or
Chrome
something
Dreams
like that.
2.
Chrome
Yeah,
Dreams 2.
which is like a super random Neil album, like an older, more recent, kind of forgettable. I don't know. My 2 cents. Super random track. It's just like a really lazy, kind of like bluesy song that Neil did. And I'm like, it's kind of like a meme. Like, let's just do this. It's A and it's like 1 chord, right? And so we just kind of punkified it a bit.
Cool.
And just that morning decided to do it. We didn't practice it or anything. We're just like, okay, Jordy, here's the chords, or here's the notes. Like, let's do it.
Do it. That's pretty punk rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it as a 3-piece too, because usually I play rhythm and sing, and that one I just sang and just let Jordy drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that was all live off the floor too? That
Yeah,
recording
yeah.
process? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So did you do that with I read a name, Kobe Andrews. Was he involved in that process?
Kobe was there hanging out with us that day.
Okay.
Kobe is a buddy who runs a radio show on CFUV on the UVic radio station called
Yeah.
Hot Local News.
Okay.
Playlist. And he is just like, he came on the scene and just was kind of like at every single show, like getting bands on the show, like doing live sessions on UVic. And he's actually started organizing and booking shows now too.
Cool.
And with a big focus on Afro and Indigenous artists and stuff like that, and queer artists, which is awesome. You know,
Yeah, that'll help balance out what you were talking about earlier, probably, right? Where it feels like it's mostly a bunch of white dudes hanging out.
yeah. So he put on a great event last weekend called Afro-Diastic, which was a combination of, BIPOC-led musical acts, there's some drag performances, and stuff like that, and just like a very like inclusive like space and like curated very well to kind of be appealing to as many people as possible. And it sold out at the VEC. It went really, really well. So
Cool.
big kudos to Kobe, and he's been a huge supporter of us since the very beginning, and just an excellent guy.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
if he happens to listen to this, you rock.
Keep it up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So so the album comes out August 26th
Yeah. Yes.
on Easy. I have Easy Freaker Records.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it going to be physical, or is it going to be just digital first, or?
Digital
It'll be
first.
digital.
Yeah.
If it becomes physical, it'll be because we made some CDs.
Yeah. Man, CDs are coming back. I still like CDs a lot.
Well, someone was saying that like tapes were popular for a bit because everyone could only afford cars that were used from the era where they have tape players.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The point, like
I don't know about that.
I just bought a car from like '07, and like so it's nice to have CDs because that has the CD player or whatever.
Yeah.
Shifting upwards. Dan disagrees, but
I think
I thought that was astute.
tapes got cool because they were analog and not as expensive as records.
Yeah.
That's my take.
fair enough.
And you can carry a bunch of them around. The thing with vinyl, like vinyl's cool, but it's difficult to lug around if you have like 10 records you want to show someone or throw in your car or whatever,
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
It's expensive. Yeah, it is expensive.
Yeah. But I love that idea of like this making CDs so people can have something, because like if you have a vehicle with CD player, you probably also have some sort of aux setup.
Yeah.
But it's also cool and novel to have some CDs that you can throw in. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, I know the used shops here. They're moving more CDs more and more now. Like some of their CD, these are used records, so it's not really the same, I guess. But their CD sections basically shrunk to nothing, and now they're growing. It's like they contracted, and now they're expanding again. Everyone's looking for CDs again. So.
Yeah, like my buddy Toby has a band that only plays CDs, and every time he comes to town, because they got a good CD selection at Ditch Records in town here, and he got like Asia by Steely Dan for like $4.
Cool.
Or somebody got a really well priced Steely Dan CD, and just being able to, you can just do that, and it's good to have. And so we're thinking like if somebody's got like 3 CDs in their car and ours is one of them, then they'll probably listen to it a bunch, and like a vehicle when I lived in the Yukon that had just a tape player, and I brought some tapes from these Halifax bands, and I just listened to this one Robert Loveless tape over and over and over all summer, and now it's just I'll never forget that CD. That album will be one of my favorites forever, just because of that.
I'd like to imagine too that eventually people they'll start to discover like music without the algorithm involved, and they'll have moments like you just mentioned where you like discover something for yourself. You listen to the whole thing as a one piece because you just kind of have to, and you're like, okay, this feels interesting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's important to actually be able to like own your media. Like I think everyone's getting a little anxious about the fact that like, oh, I liked this movie, but like I have no way to watch it if the streaming services just decide that it's no longer available to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like piracy is actually like doing good, like an archival service at this point. It's like do illegally download things and keep them on a hard drive, because you don't want the corporations just to be able to like take it away from you someday and just have all of your stuff only on Spotify. It actually like exist in the world, so they can't get away.
Yeah, because you're giving a lot of power to someone who, if you have these things that mean a lot to you as a person and like near and dear to your heart, but they're just floating out in the ether, and someone can just flip a switch and, or basically blackmail you for more money.
Like for example, I used to make in grade 7. I put out a whole album of acoustic songs I wrote on MySpace, and at some point in like 2011, MySpace lost all of their music.
Oh, really?
And I put out my old profile, and all this like album, this like 8-track album I wrote when I was 12 isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't find a CD. Like I did burn CDs and sell them at some point, but I can't find a CD, and it's just lost forever. This like early thing that I created as a child, like that I'd love to look back on, like listen to and remember those times. It's just MySpace stopped, their database crashed, so it's gone forever.
Yeah.
It's fucking wilderness out there.
Yeah.
It's just it's just up and vanished. Yeah, that's weird. But I think you're on. I think you're right, Gunnar, about the physical media thing. Like I've heard a couple people around here talking about like they'd sold all their stuff, their DVDs and stuff, and now they're having those thoughts like, wait a minute, like what if I want to cancel my Netflix subscription? Like, what do I do? And now they're starting to buy them again. Try to find used copies and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But you gotta bet, like, sometimes having too much, don't want to have too much stuff either, because then your stuff owns you a little bit. So I don't know. It's just another one of those dances I guess you have to do.
Yeah, I guess it really makes you realize like what art is important enough to you where you can kind of have it and lug it around.
Yeah, it makes it less of a commodity, actually, less disposable when you have to choose.
Yeah.
What to keep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, right on, Jay. Thank you so much for chatting with us. It's good hanging out with you.
Yeah, no problem. Coast to coast, pretty close. New Brunswick's pretty close.
Yeah. You're on the Atlantic. We're on the Pacific.
Yeah, that counts. One thing I regret is when I was out playing in Victoria, my buddy went down and like just put his feet into the water just to say he touched the Pacific, and I was like, I'll do that next time. There was no next time. I never got to do it.
I was like when we went out on our road trip, we went to Fundy National Park for a day. I went swimming in the Bay of Fundy, and that was really cool for these guys.
Yeah, now because you can say you did it if nothing else, right? And it's different experience.
Yeah. You don't want to swim in the Halifax Harbor.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Let's do it. You want to swim in the St. John Harbor? In the Inner Harbor?
Yeah, no. I don't think so. Not largest refinery in North America. Just hanging out, over our shoulder there. So
Exactly. Yeah, like at my cousin's place on the west side, it's like sometimes you smell the pulp mill. It's just like
it's sandwich. You got a pulp mill, and then you got the oil refinery, kind of like bookending the city.
Yeah, you bet. That's so funny. Well, if you're ever in the art warehouse and you see a really tall, lanky guy with short hair working, tell him that you're Colin's friend. That's my cousin John.
John, yeah, I will. I'll try and remember that, Colin.
Yeah,
John.
And then also I wanted to compliment your propaganda shirt. Cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, man. Don't even really have to talk much about them.
No,
they rule.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. And yeah, and if hopefully you guys can make it out here, and I'll plug the album on the show, and I'll probably spin it more than once when it comes out.
Oh, yeah, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, super awesome. And then I'm going to reach out to this magazine you're telling me about.
Yeah, Matt Carter.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
If you think of anyone else who might dig our stuff or who does writing or blogs or anything, let me know. And as many years as we can get on it.
There's a guy, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but his name's Josh Hogan in Halifax.
Okay.
His label might have been active when you were there, called Diminished Fifth Records.
Oh yeah.
He has like Red Tentacle Media, maybe.
Okay.
His band Orchid's Curse just put out a new album, so
cool.
he would have fired that off to all his press contacts, and I've seen reviews popping up on their Facebook page. So I'm imagining he's still connected to those people. So
cool.
Yeah, Josh Hogan, super nice. Again, you can tell him I sent you his way.
Cool.
I can't promise he'll do anything, but that's what I would do.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
You know if he's on Instagram, or maybe
he's definitely on Facebook, but Instagram.
Well, if you know a way to reach out to him, let me know, and I'll drop him a line for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and feel free to remind me if I forget, because I got something to do right after this. So.
Okay, cool. Nice. Well, thanks again, Jay. It's really nice meeting you, dude.
Yeah, nice meeting all you folks.
Yep. Hope to see you IRL one day.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Take care, buddy.
Have a good one.
See you.
Later.